After being discharged from the hospital, I suggested divorce several times, but Adolf refused to agree. I looked at him incredulously. Adolf, are you mad? Probably because he didn't get enough rest, he looked exhausted. Fidgeting with his tie, Adolf said, I have never thought about divorcing you. I promise to take care of you for a lifetime, and I won't break my promise. Ding! Wisnovel reminds you to click the subscribe button in the bottom right corner to read the complete novel. If you don't like me going to social events, I will spend more time at home with you. If you don't like me smoking, I can quit. If you don't like me contacting Marissa, I can cut off ties with her too. It's too late. It's really too late. His credit with me has already reached a negative number. I can't trust him anymore. I spoke sarcastically. Marissa actively threw herself at you. Can you really resist sleeping with her? Even if you can control your body, can you control your heart? Adolf, in the 3 years that you slept beside me, how many times did you think of Marissa? You know it deep down. Cut off ties? I think you're planning a secret rendezvous, aren't you? You want 2 women at the same time, but I no longer want to accompany you. Adolf frowned tightly. In your eyes, am I really that unbearable? Without hesitation, I nodded heavily. His expression became extremely desolate. What do you want me to do for you to believe that nothing happened between me and Marissa, that I didn't touch her, that I... That's enough. I interrupted him. How many times do I have to say it for you to understand that I no longer care about what happened between you and her? Now, I just want a divorce. He lit a cigarette, and amidst the hazy smoke, only a look of sorrow remained between his brows. Divorce is not an option. I won't agree. He refused to divorce, and for a while, I couldn't think of any solution. We could only remain in this stalemate. I couldn't continue to stay in the same space with him. After my best friend rented a house for me, I immediately packed my belongings and moved in. On the day of the move, Adolf wanted to send me off, but I refused. While my best friend helped me tidy up the room, she complained to me. Is Adolf out of his mind? He caused you so much misery, yet he refuses to divorce? Let's sue him. Sue him? The chances of winning are too slim. The Spain family is wealthy and influential. What do I have? Unless my dad is willing to help me. But how could my dad possibly be willing to help me? As soon as he heard that I wanted to divorce Adolf, he immediately started scolding me. What successful man doesn't have affairs outside? As long as Adolf is willing to come home, it means he cares about you. Why are you making trouble for no reason? My dad, a scumbag who had an affair while married, how could I still expect him to have any moral bottom line? I couldn't eat anymore, so I put down my chopsticks. You take your time to eat. I have something to do, so I'll leave first. Seeing my unfriendly attitude, my dad also became angry. You're giving me attitude after I scold you? I'm your father. I retorted, then please take a moment to reflect. Have you fulfilled your responsibilities as a father? When my mom was alive, you were never home. I hardly saw you all year. My mom hadn't been dead for long, and you brought back your mistress and that illegitimate child. When have you truly cared about me and my mom? My dad was hit where it hurt, his face changed drastically, and he raised his hand to hit me, but was stopped by the hastily arrived Adolf. With Adolf present, my dad couldn't make a move either, considering his face. When we walked out the door, I shook off Adolf's hand that was holding onto my wrist. Adolf, I don't need you to stand up for me. If you really care about me, then sign the divorce agreement. His voice was tense. I can agree to everything else, but not the divorce. I really thought he was sick. In the past, when I wanted to be with him until we grew old, he felt oppressed and couldn't breathe. Now that I want to draw a clear boundary with him, he clings to me stubbornly. Perhaps my best friend was right, sometimes men are just foolish, and what they can't have is always the best. Not only is Adolf clinging to me, even Marissa is not letting me go. Her way of thinking is astonishing. She believes that I am sticking to Adolf and refusing to let go. Nina, Adolf is ignoring me. Is it because you're threatening him with suicide again? Why are you so shameless? You insist on keeping a man who doesn't love you by your side? With you, Adolf will only feel oppressed and suffocated. He can only feel happy when he's with me. Suddenly, I felt sorry for her. She stubbornly lives in her own world, dreaming that Adolf will marry her. What Adolf likes about her is the freedom and ease she brings him. How could he marry her and shackle himself? In the end, he loves himself the most. And Marissa, who is thinking about taking my place even though she knows that Adolf and I haven't divorced yet, is not worthy of sympathy at all. I sneered, Marissa, it's not me clinging to Adolf now. It's him refusing to divorce, it's him stubbornly sticking to me. If I ask, he would even kneel down and beg me not to leave him. Marissa was furious. It's impossible. You must have used some means. Back then, you pretended to have depression, pretended to commit suicide. And that child, you intentionally got rid of it, didn't you? You want Adolf to feel guilty, so he can't leave you. Nina Gregg, you're really vicious. To be honest, I really wanted to rush up and tear her mouth apart. But physical pain can never compare to the pain in my heart, which was even more intense. So, I took out my phone, found a recording, and clicked play. Adolf's hoarse and dry voice came out from the speaker. Nina, I have never loved Marissa. From the beginning to the end, I have no feelings for her at all. The only person I love is you. When we lost the child, I was just as sad as you. I regretted and wished I could kill the person I was back then. If time could go back, I would never look at Marissa again, and I would never give her a chance to become an obstacle between us. I know I was wrong, I really know I was wrong. Please, don't leave me, okay? As long as you promise not to divorce, I will do anything. This was a recording from a few days ago when Adolf was drunk and called me, expressing his true feelings towards Marissa. After listening to the recording, Marissa's face turned pale, her lips turned blue, and her whole body trembled. After a while, she deceivingly said, I don't believe it. This recording must be fabricated by you and is not credible. Adolf only married you out of guilt and a sense of responsibility. He loves me, not you. She was on the verge of going crazy, completely consumed by madness. I couldn't be bothered to pay any more attention to her, so I put away my phone and turned to leave. As I crossed the road, I could still hear her sharp voice behind me. Nina Gregg, stop right there, I haven't finished speaking. You shameless woman. Her voice suddenly stopped. In its place was the sound of screeching brakes. I was startled and turned my head, only to see Marissa lying in a pool of blood. Due to a car accident, Marissa's leg was broken, and she would probably have to use a wheelchair for the rest of her life. When I heard this news, my hand holding the water cup couldn't help but tremble a few times. My best friend said, it's Marissa's own fault. Don't blame yourself. She crossed the road without looking at the traffic lights. That driver is really unlucky. He encountered such a crazy woman. I sighed, I don't blame myself, I just think about how she learned to dance since childhood, but now she can only sit in a wheelchair and can't even stand up. It feels quite sad. My best friend snorted, she deserves it. She should have known that she would end up like this on that day. I heard that Marissa cries in the hospital every day, begging Adolf to visit her. But Adolf never went to see her even once. Adolf was using this method to tell me that he had completely cut ties with Marissa. But I don't care anymore. Why doesn't he understand? About a month later, on Adolf's birthday night, he got drunk again. On the phone, he sounded quite aggrieved. Nina, you haven't wished me a happy birthday today. For so many years, it's the first time you've forgotten my birthday. Yes, ever since we were young, I have always been with him on his birthday. I still remember his 19th birthday, when he unexpectedly stole a kiss from me while I was cutting the cake for him. A quick and light peck on my cheek. I instantly tensed up, standing awkwardly in place with a blushing face, stuttering. Adolf, what are you doing? His ears turned red as if they were about to bleed, looking at me expectantly. Nina, be my girlfriend. His voice trembled lightly, as if he was afraid of being rejected by me. He said to me, Nina, I've secretly liked you for a long time. What he didn't know was that I had secretly liked him for a long time too. The air seemed sweet, and I shyly nodded. He excitedly hugged me and spun me around. His laughter was never so cheerful before. After putting me down, he lowered his head and kissed me. Such a gentle and cautious kiss, as if I were some precious treasure. That year, he was 19 and I was 18. We once loved each other so sincerely, but in the end, only a mess was left. We can't go back. Thinking back to 3 months ago, he forgot our wedding anniversary. Today, I forgot his birthday. Weary even now. I smiled. Adolf, there won't be another Nina who will love you for 10 years. From now on, I won't be by your side on every birthday. In an instant, the person on the other end of the phone held his breath. Without hesitation, I hung up the phone. An hour later, the door was heavily slammed. In the silent midnight, the urgent and loud knocking on the door made my heart pound. Nina, I'm back. The voice of Adolf, full of drunkenness, echoed. Sure enough, it was him. Through the door, I scolded. This is not your home, Adolf. Stop causing trouble. It's late at night, you're not sleeping, and the neighbors want to sleep too. He was silent for a few seconds, then he raised his hand and slammed the door hard. If this continues, the neighbors will definitely scold me. I had no choice but to open the door. What do you want? He was heavily drunk, stumbling forward and hugged me. His body was too heavy, I couldn't push him away, so I could only say coldly. Let go of me. He didn't listen to me, stubbornly and tightly holding on to me, refusing to let go. Nina, I miss you so much. He whispered softly in my ear. I really miss you. His hot breath hit my neck, making me uncomfortable. And his self-proclaimed deep affection only made me more disgusted. I wearily closed my eyes. Adolf, you once said that I made you feel suppressed, so you wanted to escape. So, I think you should understand how I feel now. As if realizing what I was about to say next, his body suddenly stiffened, and he tightened his hold on my arm. I sighed and continued, now all you bring me is endless oppression. Your one-sided affection is just a burden to me. When I think of you, I feel scared, do you understand? I'm afraid you will incessantly mention the past that I want to let go of. Adolf, I think I have not formally told you. I said firmly, word by word, I no longer love you. After tormenting each other for so many years, I can finally let go and tell him that I don't love him anymore, nor do I hate him. Those happy and sad memories have no meaning to me anymore. He didn't say a word. After a while, my shoulder was wet. He was crying. Crying so sadly. Like a child who had his candy taken away, he cried uncontrollably. Finally, he said in great sorrow, I'm sorry, Nina, I'm the one who lost you. It's okay. I don't mind anymore. 3 days later. When we came out of the Civil Affairs Bureau, Adolf said to me, if you encounter any trouble in the future, you can always find me. I shook my head and calmly said, no need, if we meet again in the future, let's just be strangers. His face looked miserable, but he still nodded in agreement with me. I smiled and waved at him. Goodbye. Goodbye, Adolf who helped me with my homework when I was 9. Goodbye, Adolf who carried me down the mountain when I was 15. Goodbye, Adolf who gently kissed me when I was 19. Goodbye, Adolf who married me when I was 24. From now on, if we meet again, let's just be strangers. Adolf Spain's perspective. On the day of our divorce, Nina said, if we ever meet again, let's just be strangers. I suppressed my heartache and nodded. Later, when we coincidentally ran into each other, she truly didn't even give me a glance. I silently watched her figure fade into the distance, feeling as if my heart had been pierced by countless poisonous arrows, making it difficult for me to even breathe. It was my fault. I lost her. The Nina who loved me so much, the Nina whom I deeply loved, I lost her. Every day, I live in regret. Why couldn't I have been more understanding towards her back then? Her constant worries and anxieties, her suspicion of everything, weren't they all because she loved me? She used to rely on me so much, and yet I felt annoyed and suffocated by her control, wanting nothing more than to escape. When she called me countless times, when she anxiously messaged me, I heartlessly chose to ignore her. So, all the pain and regret today, it's all my own doing, I can't blame anyone else. The biggest mistake in my life was being tempted by the ease and freedom that Marissa brought me. I never loved her. From beginning to end, the only person I loved was Nina. But because of Marissa, I hurt her once again. I'm a bastard, it's my fault that we lost our child. Her clothes were stained with bright red blood, piercing my eyes with pain. If I could, I really want to go back to that day and kill Adolf, that bastard. After the divorce, my insomnia became increasingly severe. Every sleepless night, Nina fills my heart and my mind. Sometimes, I miss her so much that I get up and drive to her apartment building. Without her to control me, my addiction to cigarettes worsens. I would stay downstairs all night, unknowingly finishing an entire pack of cigarettes. Then, before dawn breaks, I quietly leave. I dare not let her discover me, nor do I want to bring her any more trouble. 1 year after the divorce, Nina started dating a boyfriend. His name is Denzel Cheney, a gentle and humble man. That day, she leaned her head on Denzel's shoulder, and his hand wrapped around her waist. The two sat on a bench in the park, quietly watching the sunset. I don't know what Denzel said, but she suddenly laughed, her eyebrows curved, revealing 2 cute little teeth, very beautiful. I haven't seen her smiling like this for a long time. I'm happy for her, she has finally become the happy Nina she used to be. But I also feel heartbroken, such a beautiful her no longer belongs to me. That night, I had a dream. In the dream, she ran towards me with a smile. Adolf, I miss you so much. I opened my arms, and she threw herself into my arms, burying her head in my chest, speaking sweetly and acting spoiled. What about you, do you miss me? How could I not miss her? I miss her every moment. I opened my mouth to speak, but I woke up from the dream. When I woke up, the pillow was wet. And the corners of my eyes were also wet. In the 2nd year of Nina's relationship with Denzel, they got married. I hid in the crowd wearing a cap and a mask, watching Denzel hold her hand, watching Denzel kiss her. Every part of my body ached, to the point where I felt like I would die the next second. After returning home, I crazily smashed many things. I sat on the messy floor, burying my face in my hands, crying uncontrollably. I still remember, on my 19th birthday, I made a wish. I wanted to marry Nina and spend the rest of my life with her. Later, I married her, but I didn't treasure her properly. Adolf Spain, you really are a bastard. Nina gave birth to a baby. A pair of twins, the daughter looks a lot like her. I had my assistant send a gift, but it was returned. The assistant nervously broke out in a cold sweat. Mr. Spain, Miss Gregg refused to accept it, I really couldn't do anything. It's not his fault. It's mine. I waved my hand, and the assistant felt relieved and left the office. I stood by the floor-to-ceiling window, looking at the bustling traffic downstairs, unable to help but think. If there hadn't been that accident. If our baby was still here, how good would it be? If I had never hurt her, if we had always been sweet as before, how good would it be? However, in this world, there are never any ifs. The mistakes I've made can only lead to bitter consequences. From now on, I can only live in endless sadness and regret. But it's okay, as long as Nina is happy, as long as she is happy. I sincerely wish her a life without worries and everlasting joy.